Another property that we can use whenever we're positioning a tile image is called background attachment. Background attachment gives us a little bit more control as to how our image will behave in the browser. By using the fixed value with background attachment with the settings that we have now, we can save it and view it in our browser. Now we know that this image is going to be fixed in that location. What if we wanted to use percentages? Remember I mentioned we can use either a percentage amount or a length. Well, what does the percentage mean? Well, if I had used 50% instead of 50 pixels for our horizontal border across the top, basically what I'm telling the browser is depending on what browser I'm using and the amount of viewport space I have, I would like for my border to be 50% of the way from the top to the bottom of my page. Well, 50% pretty much represents the middle of the page. So that means if I'm using the percentage in this value area of my background position property, then I'm basically telling the browser I want this border to go right through the center from the left to the right of my page. So it's going to take it 50% from this top area axis downward, and it's going to tile it horizontally. So let's go ahead and let's save that. It's already did, and view it in our browser. And now we have this nice border going across the center of our page. It works the same for the vertical command or the vertical value. If we wanted to do a percentage instead of a value, we would want to change our background repeat back to the vertical repeat command, and we would want to place our percentage value in the left to right value section of our background position. So let's go ahead and let's save that. And basically what we're telling the browser now is I changed my mind. I don't want it to go horizontally halfway down the page. I want it to go vertically halfway across the page. So let's go ahead and refresh our browser. And now you can see that there's a nice little border going right down the center vertically of our page. Not very often will you find that you will need to use all of these properties for tiling a background image. However, there may be times when you have one image that you want to locate in a specific spot of the background of your HTML page. And that's where these properties will come in handy. If you, for example, didn't want this tile image to repeat, then simply change the values We'll just leave that fixed. You can change your repeat value from repeat-y to the value of no repeat. And what this basically is going to do, it's going to tell the browser, I want you to use this background image of a tile ping, but I don't want you to repeat it. And I want it to sit right up in the left-hand corner of my page. This could come in handy whenever you want to just use a logo on your page. So let's go ahead and save it and view it in our browser. And now, it's kind of hard to see probably, but it's located just behind the M in the title of my page, my first web page. Positioning a tile that's not repeated becomes easier now that we have our background position. If we wanted our one tile image, for example our logo, to actually seat about 50 pixels from the top of our browser page and 50 pixels from the left of our browser page to where it would sit somewhere along here, then we could code those into our background position area. Starting with our left to right value, we would place our pixel length or even a percentage. And then in our vertical value section, we could also place our numeric value or our length value. So basically now we're telling the browser, go ahead, use this image. I don't want you to repeat it, I just want it once on the page. And I want you to position it 50 pixels from the left and 50 pixels from the top, giving it a more localized position on our page. And I want it to be fixed. In other words, whenever they scroll the page, that image is going to stay on that particular spot of the page. To get our page to scroll, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open our HTML document. Actually, I'll just go into our style sheet and I'll make the height of our paragraph about 800 pixels. This is going to allow our page to have some scrolling ability so that we can see how this fixed property in our background attachment, this fixed value in our background attachment property works. So now we're using this image of our tile ping. We don't want it to repeat. We want it to be 50 pixels from the left towards the center and 50 pixels from the top towards the center. And we don't want it to scroll when our page scrolls. We want it to stay fixed in that position at all times. We've saved our style sheet. So let's go ahead into our page. And since I placed 800 height pixel value for my paragraph, now my paragraph is actually 800 pixels from the top to the bottom. So we have this scrolling effect to the right here. As you can see here, we can scroll our page. So if you're wondering where the image went, the sunset image, it's basically towards the bottom of our page. Did you notice that? Our tile image is now positioned 50 pixels from the top of our browser towards the bottom and 50 pixels from the left of our browser towards the center. And since we placed our background attachment property value to fixed, even when we scroll our page, our tile image is going to stay in that location. If we wanted our image to scroll with our page, then all we would have to do is change that fixed value of our background attachment property to scroll. We'll save that and we'll view it in our browser. It's still in the same location, but now as we scroll our page, so does our image. That concludes this segment of Section 1 Background Image in our Series 2 of Positioning, where we learned how to tile an image to the background of our HTML page. In the next video tutorial, we'll finish up Section 1 by learning how to position a larger scaled image to the background of our HTML page. Make sure to download the PDF that I've provided to go along with the video tutorials so that you can reference back to what we have talked about in the videos. And also, if you have any questions, please make sure to leave a comment. Thanks again for watching.